What is going on, alpha males? Welcome, and hopefully I can say, welcome back to the Alpha Male Podcast. The podcast where we talk about what it means to be an alpha male. The right way. God is number one, period. I hope that he stays in his rightful place, and everything that I do in my life in this podcast is no different, and I don't apologize for that. Today, I'm really excited about this episode. I have been putting this together for months. You may recall an episode on baby bug out bags. I don't know if I am the one that came up with this. I've certainly been pioneering and using it for a long time. And I kind of have a modular approach. I have my big bug out bag like I just used in my wilderness excursions. I have a smaller baby bug out bag or a bailout bag that generally rides shotgun that I throw on my back if I'm going on what I plan to be small trips. Or let's say I'm going on a trip with my wife real quick into town or something like that. It's a light, handy, let's say so you can picture it easily, basketball-sized sling bag that you can have at the ready with, self-defense options in there. Emergency medical options. Anyway, we'll get into that into the body of the episode. Talk all about it. I'm going to plug in the bio if you want to skip it. Skip around 3 minutes and 45 seconds from where it starts. Who am I? A question we should all ask ourselves. I am, first and foremost, a servant of God, made in his very own image. A follower of Jesus Christ. A simple man called by God to the Great Commission to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Next, a little bit about my background and what God has allowed me to do and blessed me to do in life. Grew up what most would consider very poor in the backwoods of the southeastern and mid-Atlantic United States, hunting and fishing. Joined the Marine Corps at 17. Did a couple of combat tours in Iraq. So a decorated Marine Corps combat veteran. Infantry assaultman. After the combat tours, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps under Mojave Viper. I also served in the U.S. Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. Also a veteran of law enforcement. I served with LAPD. I was a sworn peace officer, a cop for LAPD. I worked regular patrol assignments and more specialized assignments. One of those more specialized assignments was warrant service, fugitive recovery. Also had some other law enforcement roles. I am an FBI certified firearms instructor and been certified by another 3-letter government agency in a lot of firearms and training things. I've also been a private contractor, worked in the private sector pertaining to tactics and gunfighting and protecting America from enemies foreign and domestic. I served as the commander of a tactical team to stop active shooters in a large metropolitan area. That was our primary mission, to stop active shooters, which sadly are a thing in America today. I've also been blessed to do quite a bit of competition shooting. Started my first formal competitions even before joining the Marine Corps at 17. I had won more shooting competitions than I can remember. I have competed in all manner of disciplines in shooting. I've been blessed to be a state rifle and pistol champion, West Coast regional champion. Like I said, been blessed to win more shooting competitions than I can remember. Mentioned hunting. I've hunted to put meat on the table starting when I was a child. I've also been a professional big game hunter and guide, hunting and slaying all manner of beast. And I don't apologize for that. Humbled to be the host of 3 podcasts. Simple Man Sermons, Alpha Male Podcast, and Gunfighter Life. Obviously, as things not mentioned, I've been blessed to do many other things. But, again, first and foremost, I'm a servant of God, a believer and follower of the Bible, the Word, Jesus Christ. And I don't apologize for that. With that, let's transition into today's topic. So, by providence, I look behind me, and there is my bailout bag, my baby bug out bag. It's literally, let me reach back and touch it. It's within arm's reach, and that's kind of the point of this bag. There's a lot of talk in the survival community, the prepper community, of bug out bags, and that's great. I keep a bug out bag behind the front seat of my vehicle. But it doesn't generally go with me everywhere that I go. The idea of the bailout bag or the baby bug out bag is an emergency kit that you can grab at the ready. Generally, if I'm solo in the car, it rides shotgun or rides in the center console. If my Rhodesian Ridgeback Alexander Hamilton is riding shotgun, it'll generally go in the center console or down on the passenger side floor. If you were, say, getting out and going to the gym, it's small enough to fit in your gym locker. Well, most gym lockers. If you're hopping in your wife's car to head into town to go out to dinner or whatever, go grab coffee. You're going on a business trip, or let's say you're flying somewhere for a long weekend. You have to check in your gun. That's a normal thing when you fly. But pretty much the rest of it, now you'll have to check in your gun and knives. But the rest of this kit you can fold up and put in your bigger carry-on bag. The point of this is to not hinder you in your movement, really, and to be where you are. If you get out of your car in the morning and walk to a cubicle, it can go with you and go under the desk in your cubicle, and nobody would see it, nobody would bat an eye. Even go into a file cabinet drawer. It's a tiny thing. Probably not putting your bug out bag into the drawer of your desk at work if you work in a desk. You spend a lot of time in a cubicle. I've been there. I've been in that world. This bailout bag can do that. It can be where you are. You say stopping on the way back from work. You're going to walk around the other side of a big pond or something like that. Just throw it over your shoulder and still fish with it, still cast with it. I think you guys get the point. It's a small, lightweight, maneuverable bag you can carry on your back, carry on your front. You know, if you've listened for any amount of time, I am big on EDC. I am big on everyday carry. I've done an entire episode on everyday carry. I've done at least 2 that I can think of. I've probably talked about it far more in other episodes. This is not to replace your EDC. This doesn't mean that you get to be lazy if you get this bag and just not carry anything on you. You're a man if you're listening to this. Well, I guess women can listen to this too, but if you're listening to this and you're a man, you should have a knife on you. If you live somewhere where your rights have not been restricted, have not been infringed, you ought to have a gun on you. You ought to have a gun on your hip. You're a man. You ought to be a modern Minuteman, standing ready. And all the other stuff that goes into everyday carry that I've talked about before. A knife, a gun, some cash. A way to start a fire. This doesn't replace that. This adds to that. This ups your EDC game by a large margin. And again, I've talked about this. I've had mine for years and years. Forget what iteration of bag that I have, like how many generations I've gone through to get mine where it is. But it's been years and years of evaluation of T&E and an improvement on the bag that I carry every day. And I hope that you guys are listening to this and are nodding your head and saying, old news. I have mine. It's awesome. I really hope that's you. I really hope that you had this before I ever talked about it. It's a great concept. Or I hope that you heard the initial episode that came out quite a while ago on the baby bug out bag. And you're like, yeah, that's a good idea. And you went out and you made one. I hope that that's you. But if that's not you, I have been working on for months putting one together. A bailout bag, a bailout kit, a bug out bag. Good idea. Being able to up your preparedness game, up your EDC game, your readiness in day-to-day life. but you haven't done it yet, I'm going to tell you what I put in this kit, and I'm not going to sham wow you. I'm not going to Ginsu knife you if you're old enough to remember that reference. You can certainly build a kit like this yourself. In fact, I want you to. Feel free to take any of this stuff that I'm talking about and do it yourself. But I've been looking for months, finding good deals, buying in bulk, doing the podcast full time, and kind of living on and digging into savings and putting the money that I've gotten in other sources from the podcast to reinvest and grow the business in different ways. And this is one of those ways. And I've been putting these kits together. I've used years of real world experience using these kits myself. Anything from being the commander of a tactical team, stop active shooters, to being a professional hunter and guide. Again, I've gone through years of T&E on this, putting this kit together. And this is not the end all be all. This is the start for you. This is the jumping off point for you. Like, yeah, I'd really like one of these, but I'm kind of overwhelmed as to where to get started. Well, here you go. It's a good starting place. I want you to get it and customize it. Obviously, it doesn't come with a gun. I can't just ship you a gun. It would be cool if I could, but I can't. So all the pictures of this, you'll see gun not included. I want you to put a full-size fighting combat handgun in here. That's what it's for. I carry a full-size fighting handgun day to day as my EDC, but most people don't, and I know that, and I realize that, and I know why. Instead of trying to change everybody to carry a full-size fighting handgun, how about you carry a full-size fighting handgun in this bailout bag with a couple of extra mags with a lot more firepower with an optic on it? I want you to add whatever your favorite combat fighting handgun is to this. If you live in Las Vegas, I want you to add sunscreen to this. If you live in Georgia, you probably want to add bug repellent to this. I want you to customize this and make it your own. But this, I think, is a good starting off point. So let me talk about what I decided for this bailout bag, this bailout kit. Your own baby bug out bag. Themselves are Smith & Wesson sling bags. And I got this bag. I've been messing with it. It's really cool. As you might surmise from the name, the Smith & Wesson, designed to carry a handgun. It has a place in there that already comes with, in the main zip open compartment that's next to your body, way to retain a handgun, and it holds a full-size fighting handgun. Took pictures with my EDC gun, my SIG 226, and my wife's go-to fighting handgun, which is a full-size Smith & Wesson M&P, because it's a M&P bag. I figured it looked good for the pictures. Her gun with a light laser combo on it and everything fits easily inside this bag. It's designed for a full-size handgun. You could carry this and easily pull it around to your front, unzip the main pocket, and have your hand on the gun. And nobody would know that you had your hand on a gun. Be a very quick draw. Again, I don't intend this to replace your EDC, but this is a cool bag that allows for the quick draw of a full-size fighting handgun. Also on each side, there's a magazine pouch and plenty of places to put other mags. But let's say for your standard capacity, full-size fighting handgun, you have the magazine in the gun and 2 spare mags, just 17 round capacity, pretty standard. You have almost 50 rounds there on tap. That's a good amount of firepower. And again, you do you. Maybe you want a 10mm Colt Delta Elite. Maybe you want a SOCOM Mark 23. I don't know. You do you. This will be your bag when you get it. Put what you want in there. But it's a cool bag. It's set up well. I also put in there ballistic sunglasses. They're really good and comfortable as just sunglasses for doing outdoor and active type activities. Also, I want you to put a gun in here, so it would be silly to not put eyes and ears, so I did. A set of good foam earplugs in there. Can be used for other things when you're on a plane, trying to sleep in a hotel room, for a lot of different things, day-to-day life. But you got some foam earplugs, you got eye protection, ear protection. There is a Tops survival whistle. And the way I set this up is on the strap. But when you're wearing it, you should be able to reach it if you get grievously injured or something like that. You don't have to go digging around in the pack if you're really injured. You can configure the pack however you want, but it's got a clip on the sling. You don't know what a Tops survival whistle is if you're not familiar with like Tops knives. It's not some gimmicky, cheap Dollar Tree whistle. This is a legit whistle. It kind of reminds me of a freight train. And if you don't know why whistles can be used for a lot of things, signaling, communications, But we often think about in the survival tactical community, like, I want to hide, I want to be the gray man. Well, sometimes, as we'll talk about in other stuff in this kit, you want to be found. Sometimes you need help. If you've ever been an NCO in the military and just yelled all the time, know that after a while you lose your voice. Whistle takes far less energy to make a lot of noise. That's kind of the point. And it can carry a long distance. Again, sometimes you want to be found. One of the things I like this whistle for is very distinct, and my dog knows the sound of that whistle. We're out in the woods, in the wilderness, things like that. I've used it on occasion. And the top survival whistle is not some chintzy, 99-cent whistle. It's a good whistle. Next in here is a big Pharaoh Rod. I mean big. It's a heavy-duty ferrocerium rod for starting fire. You could start hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fires with this rod. Whether it's wet, whether it's dry, whether it's windy, you can get a spark with a ferrocerium rod. It is part of my EDC, one of these rods. It's one of the reasons I put it in this bag again. I'm not trying to go cheap and make a gimmicky made-in-China cheap survival kit. This Ferro Rod is a legit Ferro Rod. Not some little tiny thing. Those do work, and I do carry those sometimes in like my ultralight EDC. You can get a spark with them. But this thing is like meant for actual use in starting fires. It's not like, oh hey, cool, look, I can make a spark. It's, I'm hungry, I need to make a fire, and I'm going to make a fire. And this would make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fires. I have never managed to wear one of these out the whole time I've been EDCing them. I have used them so much they get so chewed up they look like a beaver log, kind of, and I replaced them with a newer, better looking one. But I can't imagine how many fires you could start with one of these big ferrocerium rods. Again, they work dry, they work wet. If you were lost trying to, signal a plane or something like that, they are quite bright at night when you spark them if you know how to do it. Quick pro tip on there, they're meant to be hit with the back of a square knife. You can do it with the edge, it'll certainly work, but you don't really want to dull your edge. So something 90-degree angle, hard metal, or a hard rock should work on these just fine. I generally use the back of my knife for these. But it's a very large ferrocerium rod, as you'll see from the pictures. The next thing I included is a snare. And I mean a legit snare. Not like some cheap gimmicky snare, like ones that I used as a professional hunter and trapper. This thing will snare anything deer size, wolf size, going down to much smaller in size. People talk about making snares and, their 550 chord string and stuff like that. It's all well and good. I'm not saying it's impossible. If that animal has teeth, it will likely chew through that pretty easily. You want metal steel cable. If you're doing bird snares actually work better with string. I know from experience. They work really well. Birds aren't going to have teeth to chew through that in any amount of time before you come and check them. Most mammals, most animals will chew through it if you're not using heavy-duty steel cable. So I'm giving you one snare. It's already pre-made. The ends are already pre-crimped down. It's pretty easy to set up. If you plan on that being part of your survival plan, I encourage you to look at this, model it after the professional ones that I have, and make more of them. Again, I want you to improve this kit. But it's a good heavy-duty snare, and it's more than just a snare. It's a big heavy-duty piece of steel cable with a big loop and a little loop. Good for all other kind of utilitarian tasks. Anything you might want a big heavy-duty steel cable for. Next thing I have on here, 2 fish hooks tied together with a long piece of fishing line. They're small hooks, and there's a reason for that. You can catch a big fish on a small hook. It's a lot harder, if not impossible, depending on size, to catch a little fish on a big hook. These are good. I have done quite a bit of T&E on this. What I think is the best choice, number 10 long shank, good quality steel hooks. They're already tied, so if you don't know how to tie a proper fishing knot, you're not going to tie some kind of weird regular pretzel knot on there and have the hook come off. They're already tied, they're already prepped, they're ready to go. They're stuck into and wrapped, and the line is wrapped around an earplug. A couple of reasons for that. Number 1, it keeps it all neat and tidy. Number 2, it makes it much more difficult to poke yourself with a fish hook, which is not good. I speak from firsthand experience. Having to get a fish hook dug out of your hand or something like that is not good. Also, that earplug, that foam earplug, can act as a bobber, or you can fashion it into a lure. You can cut it so as it looks like an insect or a baby frog or something like that. Recently went on a wilderness excursion. I don't know if that episode's going to come out before or after this, but I made a lure out of a rock and some tinfoil and caught a trout and ate it with these very same hooks. They do work. Anyway, you get 2 of those, you get quite a bit of fishing line. Ability to feed yourself if you're anywhere around, a sizable body of water with edible fish. The next thing, an emergency blanket. And this kind of transitions from the survival bushcrafty stuff into the medical stuff. It's great if you're stuck out in the wilderness. It's great if you are cold. I have used these before, on the side of a mountain in Idaho when the temperature was super cold and there was no sun. They do work, these Mylar survival blankets. If you live in a super cold climate, I'm not going to tell you that's all that you need, but it is way better than having nothing. I have been in situations where I've had to use these, and they do work. Mylar survival blanket. They're good for all kinds of stuff. They're good, obviously, for making shelter. They're good for making signal. Cut off a small piece of this and use it to make a fishing lure. Another big thing, I talked about this with medical. I know from firsthand experience. I have lost massive amounts of blood due to trauma. When you lose that amount of blood, your body temperature starts to drop. Hypothermia is a real thing when you have a traumatic injury. It doesn't have to be super cold out. It can be just regular temperature. If once you've lost that much blood, you can have a lot of problems regulating your body temperature. So for a lot of injuries, for a lot of massive trauma, these blankets can really come in handy. That is part of the March algorithm if you've had TCCC or any kind of advanced combat medical training. That's part of the March algorithm. That's part of emergency life-saving. And this blanket gives you the ability to do that. Obviously, it's waterproof, good for keeping the rain out. You can make an emergency shelter with it. I also put in here a length of 550 cord. Use in conjunction with this to make a shelter, or to make your fishing rod, to make your fishing system longer, or fix a broken shoelace, or any number of things that 550 cord can be used for. I'm not the guy that thinks 550 cord can make an airplane or rebuild a car engine, but 550 cord is useful for a lot of things. It is part of, generally, my EDC. Not all the time. Sometimes I'll just carry micro cord, but some kind of string is usually part of my EDC. Put a piece of 550 cord in there for obvious reasons. A lot of utility. Talking about the first aid, this also comes with a good first aid kit. A lot of the tactical bailout bags and stuff, they only come with the big emergency stuff. But let's be real. Hopefully, those don't happen that often. You should be ready for when they do happen. This has a decent medical kit for day-to-day stuff. It has burn cream. It has Band-Aids. Because sometimes you just need a Band-Aid. Sometimes you about ready for a big meeting or an important presentation and you cut yourself and you don't want to be the idiot that walks in with blood all over his hand. If you need a tourniquet, you don't want a Band-Aid. However, sometimes you just need a Band-Aid. This has Band-Aids. Whether it's a big injury or a little injury, this has triple antibiotic ointment, which is a big deal. That is a huge thing. Kind of at the limit for stuff I'll carry for EDC, but I probably should carry some triple antibiotic ointment as part of my EDC, but it is in my bailout bag. And it's in the one that I'm putting together here. That is really important. It can double as anything you might use one of those petroleum byproducts for. Vaseline, chapstick, that kind of thing. It works well for that too, and it's triple antibiotic. Oh, and it has Moleskin, which is huge. If you've ever been on long hikes, if you've ever been rucking in the military, carrying a pack, going long distances on foot, bloody feet suck. Bloody, blistery feet are painful. Moleskin is a prevention and a remedy for that. Probably aren't going to find that in a lot of your cheap, gimmicky survival kits, but something that really is probably worth its weight to gold for you if you have to go long distances on foot with bloody feet. Again, I speak from first-hand experience. That sucks. To have blistery, nasty, injured feet and still have to go a long distance with heavy weight. But it'll be far less painful if you have Moleskin or something like it. Band-Aids, conjunction with Moleskin, something like that. The next one, big on medical. Tourniquets. A tourniquet is huge. A tourniquet is part of my EDC, like my on-body carry. But a lot of you I know probably don't carry a tourniquet. So there's a tourniquet here. I already prepped the tourniquet. You probably want to customize it to you if you know how to prep a tourniquet. People have different preferences. I'm prepping it the way that I know, what I remember from TCCC. the way that I would want it prepped if I was bleeding out and dying or somebody I love was bleeding out and dying. I have that prepped. I have it on the main strap of the pack. Now, I chose specifically bright orange for these tourniquets for a reason. We talk about the tactical, the gray man, you want to blend in. But if you just got in a horrific car accident and stuff got flown all over the place, or even though your bug out bag should be in the front seat, you threw it in the back seat, got a bunch of other stuff back there, and you need to find it right now because you or somebody else is bleeding out. You want it to stand out. That bright orange, like that Hunter Safety Orange tourniquet, is right on the main strap. Again, you can configure this. If you don't want it to stand out, just put it inside the pack. If you have to go inside the pack, it'll be easy to find. But these bright orange tourniquets, I wouldn't want a bright orange tourniquet on my belt as part of my EDC, but for this, I think it's great. And I prepped it and I put it on the main sling. Again, you can change that if you want, but if it's primarily a vehicle kit or something like it, that bright orange tourniquet is ready to go. It's prepped. It's somewhere you can find it and it stands out. That's a big deal. Case study, I mentioned I was the commander of a tactical team to stop active shooters. And one of the things that I heard, I wasn't there at the time, after this big mass shooting, they said that people bled out even though there were tourniquets because it was dark outside and the tourniquets were black or a dark color and they couldn't be found inside packs and kits and medical supplies. They were there, they just literally, people didn't see them in the panic. I'll speak from firsthand experience again. It's hard to think some of those environments, and it's hard to think sometimes when you've lost a massive amount of blood. You don't want that tourniquet to be hard to find. You want it to be easy to find. And I didn't just throw this kit together. It's taken months of looking into the little things like that, like the color of the tourniquet. And again, if you're not going to buy this kit, feel free to take that idea. You may be able to save a life, yours or your neighbor's, whether you buy from me or not. I'm all about camoing stuff and spray painting stuff, making it blend in, but not everything, and probably not your tourniquet. Talking about camo and blending in, the next thing. This is something I used all the time way before COVID was a thing. I was a big fan of these. And that's these camo face masks. Camo neck gaiters. You can configure them as a hat, as a neck gaiter for all kinds of things. Talking about medical, it could also be a pretty legit bandage if you had a pretty grievous but not deep injury that bled a lot. The one that I put in here is camo. Some things you do want camo. Sometimes you don't want people to see your face. What I use mine for a lot is in really hot environments. When I lived in Las Vegas, when I lived in the Arizona desert. If you have water to spare, putting some water on there and putting it on your neck will do a lot to keep you cool when that evaporation is going over your arteries in your neck or on your wrist. Also help you from getting sunburnt on your neck. And I used to use it to make a water filter. And just like 550 cord, there's a ton of other uses you could do with this. It is very useful. Again, I use these all the time, even before COVID, even before face masks. They are really handy for a lot of things. I have quite a few of them just lying around, and I have one in my baby bug out bag, my bailout bag. The one that I have in mine is generally kept in a package and nice and clean and pristine in case I have to use it as a bandage. I generally have one or two around anyway. It's there if I have to use it for whatever task. The next one is a flashlight, and this is not a tactical flashlight. Again, this is not to replace your EDC. You ought to have a flashlight as part of your EDC. Flashlights have gotten so good and so small and so powerful. This is kind of a step up from that. This is a bigger. It's small enough to fit in a baby bug out bag. But it's not like a pen light. It's a bigger emergency flashlight. Use it like a traditional flashlight. It has an out the front beam. It also has a bigger out the side beam. Let's say just your car breaks down. You need a lot of light underneath your hood or underneath your car. You're on the side of the road trying to fix a flat tire. Also has a red blinking beacon. Again, we always think about the tactical, like I'm going to run off into the woods and be Rambo. But sometimes you want to be found. It's an emergency light, an emergency signal. You can use it as a lantern. And maybe you have made a shelter for the night and you need to get your camp ready. It's a good floodlight kind of lantern. It's a good if you want to change the modes. It's got an out the front mode. You can use it just like a regular flashlight and carry it. Trying to get rescued, you can use the red lens beacon. It's a good light that is probably a big step up from what most of us EDC, certainly what I EDC every day in my pockets. The last item I'm going to talk about here is quintessential to the kit. It is a really good, sturdy fixed blade knife. It is what I think of in my experience. Now, there's no perfect knife, but as a good, balanced knife for your tactical defensive type scenario, it is a good, solid fixed blade knife with a good heavy grip handle with deep ridges and a flared out grip to stop your hand from slipping up on the blade. It is a good tactical defensive knife. In fact, really good. There's also a good beefy fixed blade knife for bushcraft. In fact, it's called a bushcraft. If you're familiar with SOG, SOG is kind of known and renowned in the knife community, and they make really good knives. This knife is no exception. Just like flashlights have gotten really good in the past couple of decades, and knives and their quality have gotten really good. This is a really good knife. Again, this is not some chintzy, super cheap, gimmicky survival kit. This is a good kit, and this is a good knife. It is the SOG Bushcraft Fixed Blade Knife, 4.7 inch drop point. That's the blade length, not the overall length. Stainless black oxide. I don't know who designed this knife, but it is fantastically designed. It really is a very good knife. You'll know that I'm a big proponent of, if you're a man, having a knife on you. You know my number one recommendation for EDC is a buck 110, or buck 110 slim. But this is not an EDC carry on you. You certainly could if you wanted to. I carry a fixed blade knife day to day. Most people don't. I realize that most people are going to carry a folder. But I think for this, for your bailout kit, you ought to have a good, sturdy fixed blade knife that you could really put some power behind and penetrate some really dense material. Whether that's a tactical application or whether that's a bushcrafting. It's called the bushcraft knife. To me, it kind of looks like actually looks more to me like a tactical knife than a bushcraft knife, but it would be a fine bushcraft knife. I don't want to be in a knife fight of any kind, but if I had to be in one, I would much rather take that over, let's say, a folding pocket knife. I would like to have a full kit if I butcher an elk or a buffalo, but I certainly wouldn't have any problem butchering an elk or a buffalo with this knife. I would like a hatchet and a machete if I was going to build a primitive shelter out in the wilderness, but I certainly could do it with this knife. It is a good all-around knife. Much as I'm a gun guy, and you know, probably if you listen to this for any length of time, I'm the host of Gunfighter Life podcast. I almost certainly use my gun, unless you count like dry fire, dry practice. I use my knife for tasks much more than my gun. It's one of our oldest tools as a man. Whatever culture, whatever society, whatever time and place in history, knives are useful to men, and they're no different now. This is a good, solid, fixed blade. Both good tactical application, defensive application, bushcrafting knife. Much beefier and more sturdy than, let's say, a Mora knife, which a lot of people tout as being a great bushcraft knife. Much thicker and beefier than that. And it's a good brand. Again, SOG is kind of known in the industry for being like a tactical working man's knife. And I think it does well to round out a very good, well-balanced kit. Blessed shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the country. Deuteronomy 28. You know, unless you're a patron, I don't really know you that well or your circumstances. You know, perhaps you live in California. Your choice for a defensive weapon to put in the main compartment is going to be far different than somebody that lives in a much more Second Amendment free state. You know, if you live in the suburbs and go to a city day to day and almost never go in the country, your choices to put other things in this kit are going to be likely far different than, let's say, somebody that's a professional rancher and has this in the side of his side-by-side or in the back of his side-by-side, blung on him when he's on his quad riding the fences. I've been there. I've been a professional rancher. And again, I want you to get this and customize it. I want you to say, you know what, this thing needs a good multi-tool. Well, throw a good multi-tool in there. When I was out riding fences, I used a multi-tool a lot, so I didn't have to go all the way back to the barn and get tools. If I could get it done with a multi-tool, I'd try to get it done first before I wasted a ton of time traveling all the way back and all the way back out to the fence. If you're somewhere with a lot of sun, you know, one of those little tiny tubes of sunblock. It's a great thing to have in here. You know, if you're in South Florida, you probably want to put a few more fishing options in there than just 2 fish hooks. That can be a main source of food in Florida. There's probably a lot more fish than edible wildlife, especially if you're in a more urban area or suburban area of Florida. If you plan on spending a lot of time out in the bush, you might want, a better, beefier emergency bivvy in there, or 2 survival blankets. Again, I want you to get this and customize it. I want you to be ready. I'm doing these podcasts as a business, and I don't apologize for that. If you buy the kits, you will be helping out. You'll be helping to produce revenue for this business so you guys get the content. And I don't apologize for that. But I chose this specifically. Hope that you want to become a patron, but if you don't, I chose this as a way that you can help support the podcast and be a more well-prepared, well-rounded individual, ready for whatever comes. Imagine you're sitting in your cubicle at work and bang, bang, bang. You hear some loud noises, and then a few seconds later you hear a lot of screaming. And you slowly stand up and peer over your cubicle, and you realize there's an active shooter. Wouldn't it be nice to pull out your top filing cabinet drawer and have this bag in there with your full-size fighting handgun? Or picture this. You've decided to go on a little short fishing trip on your way home. You got off work early. You live in Florida or South Georgia, Alabama. You're walking along a creek bank or a pond. You get a little distracted by the underbrush, cobwebs in your face, and you get ambushed on water's edge by an alligator. You manage to fight your way to freedom. Got a pretty nasty gash on your leg. Wouldn't it be nice to throw a tourniquet around that and be able to just reach down and blow on that whistle if you don't have signal on your cell phone? Or how about you're just driving home from a really long shift and you just hear this really nerve-wracking screech of brakes locking up. You look in front of you and somebody's ran a red light and plowed into the side of another car. And thankfully it's not you, but you look up and there's a really bad accident right in front of you. So you go down and pull over right behind them. You get out and there's some soccer mom stumbles disoriented out of her car, and she's got a horrific burning arterial wound in her arm. Instead of just getting out and looking around saying, what do I do? What do I do? You look over in your passenger seat riding shotgun. You see that bright orange tourniquet. You survey the scene on your way up. You walk up there like a boss, confident, throw that tourniquet on high above the wound, crank it down and stop the bleeding. And then once the bleeding is stopped, you call 911. Any number of other possible scenarios in today's world. You could likely think of many more scenarios where you need a large fixed blade knife or a full-size fighting handgun or any of the other things listed in this kit. And I don't know what those might be for you. And that's kind of the point. You and I don't know what the future holds, but we're called to watch and be ready. I think this idea of a bailout bag, a baby bug out bag, to replace a full-size bug out bag, I still have one of those. This is in conjunction with that. I'll put this either inside that bag and in the front when I have the big bag on the back to kind of balance out. And again, I'm not going to ShamWow you guys. Make your own if you want. If you already have one that's better than this, great. If you have yours customized to you and you already have all the things in here, I'm not upset by that. I'm encouraged by that. I hope you already have one. But if you don't, and you don't really know where to start, or you're kind of overwhelmed as to what to put in it, this is a good start. It is a good balanced kit. And again, you probably want to customize it to you. Throw some Quest bars in there. An Algene bottle with a carabiner to clip onto it, full of good, clean, drinkable water. Obvious reasons I'm not going to put a bottle of water in here and ship it. But anyway, these are for sale. Again, I'm not going to apologize. They're $89, which I think is a good value. I'm not making a ton of money on these kits. I'm trying to have this as a way to support the podcast. $89 on the website, goodshepherdtraining.com. If you want to check them out, if you don't want to buy one, go to goodshepherdtraining.com and check them out if you're trying to set up your own kit. My God supplies all my needs, and I'm confident that He will, whether or not you buy one of these kits. If you want see pictures of this kit, if you want to see what's in it, how it's set up, things like that, you can go to goodshepherdtraining.com. Also, if you want to contact me, if you're not a patron, you can contact me on goodshepherdtraining.com. It may take me a while to get back to you. I live semi-nomadically I also spend chunks of time off grid. I'm about to go off grid again, somewhere I don't believe there'll be any signal for anywhere near where I'm at. But by the grace of God, I'll sooner or later get back to you. So if you want to contact me, goodshepherdtraining.com. You want one of these kits, goodshepherdtraining.com. Check them out. They're for sale on the website. Also some other merchandise if you don't want this kit, but you want to support the podcast. There's some pretty good utilitarian metal alpha male mugs, gunfighter mugs, shirts, things like that. I hope this has inspired you to watch and be ready. Have this kit or a similar configuration of your own making kit as a man to be ready. This episode is already going rather long, so I won't combine this with the older baby bug out bag episode, but you can look it up. It's still available. They decide to broadcast that one again a day or two after this comes out. Again, you can look it up. It's still available online. It's entitled Baby Bug Out Bag in the Alpha Male Archives. As a thanks for listening to all that, the tactical tip of the day. Talked about in here, I have a good, well-made snare for wolf and deer size and down. As I alluded to, I've been a professional hunter in the bio. That also includes being a professional trapper. I have trapped many an animal. Set up a snare, whether it's one you get in this kit, or one that you make yourself. A lot goes into that. A lot goes into being a professional trapper, especially a snare. I've done it successfully. Caught all manner of animals in a snare. Do it right, the animal dies rather quickly. The right way to set up as a snare is so that at the desired animal's head height, their head gets caught in there, they freak out, and they die rather quickly from asphyxiation. That's the proper way to do it. It doesn't always happen that way, and it kind of sucks when it doesn't. That's why a gun is part of your EDC. Oh, I could tell you stories about animals caught in snares, but without getting too crazy down those rabbit holes, the proper way to set it up, the loop that you've made in the snare, the slip knot, if it's the one you're getting with the kit, you loop the big loop end through the little loop, make kind of a slip knot. You can either construct this or find a place where it naturally occurs. Let's say a good, well-worn animal path, a limb hanging over it naturally with a fork in it. You can suspend this down. It hangs off that fork. And the way you want it configured is, and a lot goes into this, whatever environment you suspend that snare, and you want it so that as soon as it falls off that little thing that's suspending it, it tightens itself, like it automatically falls and tightens itself. Then you anchor that other point down with a giant stake. You tie it with the rest of your 550 cord or something like it. If an animal's going to try and chew themselves free, they're probably going to chew what's connected to their body. They're probably not going to go, feet down the line and bite the 550 cord even though they could. That's just not how their brain works, in my experience. Anchor it down around a tree, something like that, so they can't get away. That's how you want that loop configured, so that as soon as it falls off, as soon as something touches it, it tightens itself. You can catch an animal in a snare even if you do it wrong, even if you do it completely backwards, with the slip knot on the bottom. But this gives you a much higher percentage of success in my experience. Do it yourself by getting a stick and shoving it in the ground along an animal path with a small fork in it. Break it off at the right distance, the right height for the animal's head that you're trying to catch. Very small twig and just suspend it lightly so that as soon as it falls, it tightens. Anyway, that's your tactical tip of the day on snaring, which reminds me of the tactical verse of the day. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, you are my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I will trust. Surely you shall deliver me from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. And under your wings shall I take refuge. Your truth shall be my shield and buckler. I shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at my side, 10,000 at my right hand, but it shall not come near me. Only with my eyes shall I look and see the reward of the wicked, because I have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, my dwelling place. No evil shall befall me, nor shall any plague come near my dwelling. For you shall give your angels charge over me, to keep me in all my ways. In their hands they shall bear me up, lest I dash my foot against a stone. I shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent I shall trample underfoot. Because I set my love upon you, therefore you deliver me. You set me on high, because I have known your name. I call upon you, and you answer me. You be with me in trouble. You deliver me and honor me. With long life, you satisfy me and show me your salvation. Psalm 91. With that, men, be strong, be ready, and have a blessed day.